I understood what you were saying, that if no one's going to develop on the land, why preserve it? Because you could allocate those funds towards something that's...
No, I agree. Yeah, I mean, it was 1 acre out of 70.
Calling County Council meeting to order. Could we please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? Mr. Lott, would you lead us?
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Yeah.
Ms. Zembo, when she is ready, can lead us in the roll call.
You did the pledge?
Yes, we did.
Mr. Kuzic is absent. Mr. Dietz.
Here.
Mrs. Ferraro.
Here.
Mr. Heckman is absent. Mr. Lott.
Here.
Mr. McGee.
Here.
Ms. Margot Hefner.
Here.
And Mr. Warner is absent. Ms. Zirinsky.
Here.
There are 6 members present and 3 absent.
Everybody sounds like a...
Okay. Could I have a motion to approve the minutes of September 5th?
Here.
Yes.
Mute your phone.
Mr. Dietz with Mr. McGee as a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None. Ms. Zirinsky has a proclamation for us this evening.
So Richard, Lynn, and Dole DeFebo are here to receive this. They're from the DeFebo Family Harvest Home Farms. And the proclamation is such that, whereas the Northampton County Council would like to recognize the DeFebo Family Harvest Home Farms, the principal officers of whom are Richard DeFebo and his son, Dole DeFebo, who on their 175-acre grazing land, 130 acres of hay fields, and another 30 acres of non-traditional sorghum oats and crimson clover, act as environmental partners in conservation and collaborative education in Bangor and in the county of Northampton. And whereas the principal partners of DeFebo Family Harvest Home Farms are natives of the Lehigh Valley, tracing their roots to when Elton Ott purchased 100 acres in the northeastern corner of Northampton County in 1930, and have a long history of service and support to the communities of Northampton County. And whereas the DeFebo Family Harvest Home Farms has partnered with local school districts and the Martin Jacoby watershed to share agricultural knowledge in support of emerging and future agricultural communities of Northampton. And whereas the significant investment of time and capital made to preserve and transform conventional corn and soybean fields to permanent pastures for grazing cattle has helped restore the soil and reduce erosion, the DeFebo Family Harvest Home Farms demonstrates a passion for conservation and agricultural innovation by reclaiming a desolate shale pit to support plant growth and pastures, rejuvenating the land, and working with the Department of Energy to provide solar-powered watering systems to prevent cattle from walking to a centralized water tank, thereby ensuring the even distribution of nutrients to the land and demonstrating further evidence of the DeFebo Family Harvest Home Farms' commitment to conservation and agriculture in Bangor and Northampton County. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Northampton County Council does hereby recognize DeFebo Family Harvest Home Farms, its principal officers, who are dedicated to improving the quality of land and to the long-term agricultural conservation, and for their continued efforts in preserving our agricultural history, bettering the land, and inspiring conservation in Northampton County.
I just want to thank County Council for recognizing us for the conservation practices that we implemented on our farm. And also, let's see, forget what I want to say already. I know agriculture, as you know, agriculture still plays a big part in Northampton County, and good conservation practices play a big role in clean air, clean water, groundwater recharge, even slows climate change. And I hope County Council continues to support our county conservation district in their efforts to educate the farmers and landowners, so hopefully they can implement these same type of conservation practices. Thanks again.
Thank you, sir, Valley, for your efforts. Confirmation of appointments, Mr. McGee.
Resolved by Northampton County Council that the following individuals shall be confirmed in their appointment as indicated hereafter. Area Agency on Aging Board, appointment, Elaine Arntz, term to expire 6/30/21, and an appointment of Robert Pertopa, term to expire June 30th, 2021. Housing Authority Board, we have Leona Demko, an appointment, term to expire February 9th, 2020. And under Personnel Commission, Marvin Boyer, term to expire, an appointment, term to expire December 31st, 2021. So moved. These were discussed at the committee meeting last night.
Just want to note Mr. Boyer is here. Is anyone else here that was nominated?
Thank you very
Thank
much
you, sir.
for your time.
I did. No discussion? Call for the vote?
Mr. McGee,
Yes.
Mrs. Ferraro, Peg,
Yes, yes,
Mr. Lott,
Yes.
Ms. Margot Hefner.
Yes.
Ms. Zirinsky,
Yes.
and Mr. Deeds.
Yes.
Passes by a vote of 6-0.
No one signed in for courtesy of the floor this evening. Is there anyone that needs to make or would like to make any comments and address council? Going once? Going twice?
No, the presentation.
Are they making a presentation?
This is courtesy. There's no presentation.
There's no presentation, so you can speak now if you'd like to.
5 minutes. And identify yourself, please, for Ms.
Yes, my
Summer.
name is Angela Vullo. I'm from the D.C. area. We're here to speak about the National Infrastructure Bank. I'm part of a national coalition for the bank, and I just wanted to dispel any disinformation that was going around that this somehow was affiliated with Lyndon LaRouche. It is not. The LaRouche organization is not part of the coalition. The coalition are individuals that are affiliated with organizations, of course, but this is not one certain organization. I wanted to say that we now have a resolution circulating in the Pennsylvania State Legislature. These have been filed in 17 state legislatures, passed in 3, South Carolina, Illinois, and Alabama. We have gotten the Democratic municipal officials to pass a resolution. The Akron City Council, Trenton City Council have also passed resolutions. I don't think that I need to underscore the urgency of why states and cities need federal funds at this point to build the critical infrastructure, whether it be transportation, power, water, schools, hospitals, etc. What our bank is calling for is a policy similar to what was done by Franklin Roosevelt in the New Deal with the Reconstruction Finance Corporation. This was modeled on a bank that was originated by Alexander Hamilton, that the first and second bank reside in downtown Philadelphia. And much of Pennsylvania was built under the second bank by John Quincy Adams. So what we're talking about here is we're calling for something that is not new, although many people think it's new because they haven't been educated about it in the last 50 years. But it's something that was done 4 times in U.S. history. It's how the country was built. There was never a time in U.S. history the country prospered that this bank wasn't used. And what we're seeing now is not only the infrastructure is crumbling, but you've got a big gap in income inequality. You've got a big crisis in the opioids, other things that are related to the physical breakdown of the country. And what we know is that there is no proposal right now in the U.S. Congress to address the magnitude of this crisis. That's why we're calling for $4 trillion. I want to turn it over to one of my colleagues here, Stan Forzek, who can go through this. He's a former representative from Amtrak.
He gets 5 minutes now.
He gets 5 minutes himself.
Right.
She doesn't dish off.
Okay.
Good evening. Thank you for the opportunity. I know your folks are getting together to look at a resolution for the National Infrastructure Bank. I think I spent about 5 minutes last month talking about infrastructure and how poor it is in this country. And it's accelerating to the point that although we mentioned the bank has to be funded for $4 trillion or a little bit more than $4 trillion, we know, and if you think about it, you'll know the answer too. If we wait too much longer, say 5 to 8 years, that $4 trillion is going to quadruple or quintuple, so that the costs will become somewhere around the area of $16 to $20 trillion. I don't think we want that. I think that we need to go forward, create the bank, put in legislation to create the bank, and start doing some of these projects. We had a great meeting in Harrisburg yesterday with several people who are asking if, when we explain everything to them, are asking, do their constituents know what's going on, and are they on board? Do they endorse this type of resolution and legislation? And that's one of the things that we wanted to stop by tonight and speak about. People want to hear from their constituents their beliefs that this has to be done in order to create a situation where the infrastructure of this state and all the rest of the states are brought up to speed, or at least brought up to now the 21st century instead of the 19th and 20th century. I'm glad that we came. We're here to answer any questions you've got, and I appreciate the time.
Thank you, sir.
My name is Lisa D'Italia, and I'm the local representative with my coalition here from DC. We are working on a National Infrastructure Bank resolution, bill, whatever you want to call it, to get implemented in Congress or to get sponsored by someone in Congress. We have very many meetings that we have attended, both locally here in Ohio, New Jersey, New York, Scranton, specifically in Pennsylvania, and we have a number of legislative bodies that are supporting the resolution. Like my colleagues have stated, it's a major crisis. It's going to cost so much more money if we don't tackle it as soon as possible. There's good state, federal, and local support for this. It's just a matter of getting more people and more committees and more groups like this on board supporting it. That helps on the state level, and it helps on the federal level if we have local support from the local commissioners here. I mean, committee?
We're called councils.
Council,
members.
sorry.
It's okay.
Yeah, there's different structures in each town, and we've been to quite a few, and remarkably, we're learning so much about the local level of politics here in the counties, and that's great. and we've had excellent support from many of them. It's just a matter of getting the resolution supported on the local level so that we can get a bill passed on the federal level. When that happens, a number of these projects can begin to be implemented. The Alexander Hamilton model has been used in the past. It built the infrastructure here in Pennsylvania. Roosevelt's Finance Corporation built the infrastructure in after World War II. It's also been done by Abraham Lincoln when he did the railroads. So it's a model that has worked by monetizing the federal debt, not creating any additional debt, and paying the interest so that the loans can be lent out to people at a very low interest rate. So that will then foster a lot more lending to get these projects done. So that's just some of the basic things about it. We have given you material that hopefully you can read. And if you have any further questions, we'd be more than happy to answer them. Thank you.
Are there any other comments from the floor? Okay. I would ask Mr. McClure if he has a report, but I don't see him. So if anybody's going to give one on his behalf, no report. Just moving along tonight.
Wow.
I know, right? Is there any old business to discuss? New business. Ms. Zirinsky, consideration of a resolution supporting the creation of a national infrastructure bank. Will you introduce the resolution?
Now, therefore, be it resolved that Northampton County Council hereby requests the Congress of the United States to introduce and pass the appropriate legislation to create a national infrastructure bank. Be it further resolved that the clerk of Northampton County Council shall send a copy of this resolution duly enacted by Northampton County Council to members of Congress who represent the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania and the Pennsylvania state legislators representing Northampton County.
Is there any discussion of this resolution?
I'd just like to say a couple words. I put this forward into a resolution after speaking to the group. I know they've made a presentation here, and this makes so much sense to me. The idea that people there are people who want to invest in debt and want to make that debt, turn that into infrastructure, is an incredible idea. And I know that it's been done before. It has a proven track record of being able to rebuild this country. And if anybody has traveled on our roads and looked at our bridges and understood the need for high-speed rail and large projects that we can't necessarily get done on the local level or on the state level, we need this federal level to get this project done and this money done. I mean, I can't stress more how important I think this is to move our country forward and into the future. I think this is everything that we need, and I have full support for it. I don't know if any of you have been able to talk to them, but I think they've reached out to a number of us, and this just makes sense. It makes sense for right now. It makes sense for the future. And I know that I'm going to vote on it. And I'm going to vote yes, and I hope that all of you will vote yes, too. Thank you.
Any other comments or discussion? Mr. Lott?
Yeah, this is a national problem, infrastructure that we've been talking about for several years now. It's really coming home to roost. We have deficits in the Commonwealth. We're cutting our infrastructure funding. I don't know if this is the answer. I hope it is. I hope it works. But at the very least, I think we need to be sending a message to the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania and to our federal government that we need to do something. And if they don't buy into this idea, give us another idea. So at the very least, I think we should be pushing this resolution forward, saying, hey, we have a problem. You guys keep saying we have a problem, but we need action on it. So I will be supporting this just in the fact of raising awareness to the issue, if nothing else. Now, that being said, I hope this all works out, but if nothing else, bringing awareness. Thank you.
Any other?
Yeah, I'll be supporting it. I think with the truck traffic in the Lehigh Valley, we can't, we need a program like yesterday. And so I will be supporting it. I think at least somebody's taking an initiative to do something about it. So thank you for your work.
Okay, if there's no further discussion, I could call for the vote.
Mr. Rinsky.
Yes.
Mr. Lot.
Yes.
Mr. McGee.
Yes.
Ms. Fargo Hefner.
Yes.
Mr. Deep.
Yes.
Mrs. Ferraro.
No.
No. Passes by a vote of 5-1.
Okay, thank you. Consideration of an application to the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania Career Service Civil Service Resolution. Mr. McGee, will you please introduce the resolution?
Now therefore be it resolved, be it hereby resolved, thank you, that the Northampton County Council does hereby approve the application to the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania as set forth in the attached documentation. See attachment A.
Okay. Is there any discussion on this motion? I think most of us were here, all of us were here yesterday. We
Yes.
all heard about it.
Yes.
We've been discussing this. We've heard the difficulties that we have with the civil service. And this is not binding, but this moves the process forward, and we'll continue to work with the state on
This has been discussed.
finalizing, correct?
Yes, this has been discussed yesterday and also at a previous Personnel Committee meeting. And we had some folks in that have implemented it in their counties, and they brought their thoughts to the council.
Any other
So
discussion?
moved.
No further discussion. Call for the vote, please.
Mr. McGee.
Yes.
Mr. Lot.
Yes.
Ms. Fargo Hefner.
Yes.
Mr. Rinsky.
Yes.
Mr. Deep.
Yes.
And Mrs. Ferraro.
Yes.
Passes by a vote of 6-0.
Thank you. Consideration of an employee referral incentive payment policy resolution. Mr. McGee, would you introduce this also?
Yes, now therefore, it is hereby resolved that the Northampton County Council does hereby approve the employee referral incentive payment policy as set forth in the attached documentation. This was also discussed in, well, actually, yeah, it was in personnel. It was discussed in the Personnel Committee meeting last night. And we had amended it to accommodate for all county employees, and for the incentives of $250 for the nurse, registered nurse, and $100 incentive for any other vacant position at Greystone. So moved.
Any other discussion?
Sorry, did we have this amended so that it's every county employee?
Yes.
And that's in here?
Yes,
make the referral.
I reviewed it,
Referral.
Mr.
Yes.
Spadoni reviewed it, and it's changed to say any employee specifically for Graysdale referrals.
The statute's in there for the 6-month probation period.
Yes.
And it aligns with the policy that they put together over at Greystone.
Okay, great.
Call for the vote.
Call for the vote.
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm just looking, I think there's a typo, but you could fix that. Newly hired refereed, is that a real word? Referred?
Referee.
Sorry, with,
Was she
if we
trying?
could just fix the typo and then we're good.
Scribner.
So I'll call for the vote.
Mr. McGee.
Yes.
Ms. Fargo Hefner.
Yes.
Mr. Rinsky.
Yes.
Mr. Deep.
Yes.
Mrs. Ferraro.
Yes. Great idea. Thank you.
Mr. Lot.
Yes.
Adopted by a vote of 6-0.
Thank you. Consideration of amendments to the Mental Health, Early Intervention, and Developmental Programs Advisory Board Bylaws Resolution. Now therefore be it resolved by County Council of Northampton County that the amended bylaws of the Mental Health, Early Intervention, Developmental Programs Advisory Board are hereby approved this 19th day of September 2019 as reflected on Exhibit A. This was also discussed yesterday, and it is, it's being done just to, as a regular review and get everything up to speed for this year. Is there any other discussion? Call for the vote?
Spargo Hefner.
Yes.
Ms. Zirinsky.
Yes.
Mr. Dees.
Yes.
Mrs. Ferraro.
Yes.
Mr. Lott.
Yes.
Mr. McGee.
Yes.
Adopted by a vote of 6-0.
Okay. How do I say? The next three were discussed at Park, or sorry, it's not Parks anymore, Environmental, Energy.
Energy, Environment, and Land Use Committee.
Thank you. And there was not a quorum, however, I'd like to bring these up for discussion and moving forward this evening if there's no objection. So the first would be Ms. Zirinsky, the consideration of the daily property acquisition Bushkill Township resolution.
Now therefore be it resolved by the Northampton County Council, one, the Northampton County Council hereby approves the daily property, or the Dally property acquisition. Further, the Northampton County Executive, through the Office of the Program Administrator of the Northampton County Livable Landscapes Program, or his designee, is directed to take any and all steps necessary to administer and complete Northampton County's obligations in this project. Two, the Northampton County Council further directs the Northampton County Executive to appropriate $300,000 of open space initiative, environmentally sensitive funds as the Northampton County contribution to the Dally property acquisition. Should an amount be less than the sum approved by County Council, the remaining balance shall be placed back into the appropriate fund from which it was allocated. So go ahead.
No, go ahead.
So this one just has to be amended such that the description of the project, the last sentence, the period should end at Park, and with non-motorized activities should be stricken. We discussed this in the Energy, Environment, and Land Use Committee. This is a use that will be determined by the municipality, Bushkill, and that portion should just be crossed out. Okay? Can I have a motion? I would like to make a motion to amend this,
To accept as amended.
to accept as amended such that the period goes at Park and the last portion with non-motorized activities is stricken.
Second, I'll second it.
Thank you.
Mr. McGee. Do we need discussion, or do we need to just vote on the amendment?
I think we could just vote on it. We discussed it earlier.
Okay, vote on the amendment?
We have to vote on the amendment, yeah. We're getting there.
Ms. Zirinsky.
Yes.
Mr. McGee.
Yes.
Mr. Lott.
Yes.
Mr. Dees.
Yes.
And Mrs. Ferraro. Peg? Peg? She hung up. She's no longer on.
She lost the call. I didn't get to vote.
Ms. Fargo Hefner.
Yes.
We only need 5, I guess.
Well, you needed me, because she
We
wasn't there.
did need you. Yeah, we definitely need
Nice to be needed.
Motion passed by a vote of 5-0.
Okay. So now we need to vote on the resolution as amended. Call for, no discussion, call for the vote. Let's get it's all done.
Ms. Zirinsky.
Yes.
Mr. Dees.
Yes.
Mr. Lott.
Yes.
Mr. McGee.
Yes.
Ms. Fargo Hefner.
Yes. Oh, there she is.
Do I take her now?
Yes.
Okay. Peg, do you want, we're voting on the Bushkill Township.
Right, I vote yes. Something happened in the phone. Okay.
So you're voting?
She said she votes
Yes.
Does she
Okay.
vote yes, yes, or just yes? Resolution passes. Consideration of the Russell Property Conservation Easement, Williams Township Resolution. Ms. Zirinsky?
Now
Please
therefore
introduce.
be it resolved by the Northampton County Council, 1, the Northampton County Council hereby approves the Russell Property Conservation Easement Project. Further, the Northampton County Executive, through the Office of the Program Administrator of the Northampton County Livable Landscape Program, or his designee, is directed to take any and all steps necessary to administer and complete Northampton County's obligations on this project. Two, the Northampton County Council further directs the Northampton County Executive to appropriate $85,837.50 of Open Space Initiative environmentally sensitive funds as the Northampton County contribution to the Russell Property Conservation Easement Project. Should an amount be less than the sum approved by County Council, the remaining balance shall be placed back into the appropriate fund from which it was allocated.
Any discussion on the resolution?
No.
Call for the vote.
Ms. Zirinsky.
Yes.
Mr. Dees.
Yes.
Mrs. Ferraro. Peg.
Yes.
Mr. Lot.
Yes.
Mr. McGee.
Yes.
Margot Hefner.
Yes.
Adopted by a vote of 6-0.
Consideration of return of Valley View Overlook Fee Simple Acquisition Project Funds Request Resolution. Ms. Zirinsky, will you introduce the resolution?
Now therefore be it hereby resolved by the Northampton County Council. One, the Northampton County Council hereby approves return of $150,000 from the Valley View Overlook Fee Simple Acquisition Project. The Northampton County Council further directs the Northampton County Executive to unencumber $150,000 from Resolution number 81-2018 within the Open Space Initiative Livable Landscape Funds. What is it now?
Any discussion?
No.
Call for the vote.
Ms. Zirinsky.
Yes.
Mr. Dees.
Yes.
Mrs. Ferraro.
Yes.
Mr. Lot.
Yes.
Mr. McGee.
Yes.
Margot Hefner.
Yes.
Adopted by a vote of 6-0.
The next three were discussed at the Finance Committee last night. Yes. The first is Slate Belt Plumbing, Heating, and Electric. Now therefore be it resolved that the Northampton County Council does hereby concur with the recommendation of the county executive as set forth in the attached documentation to approve a contract with Slate Belt Plumbing, Heating, and Electric. Any discussion? Call for the vote.
Ms. Margot Hefner.
Yes.
Mrs. Ferraro. Peg.
Yes.
Mr. Lot.
Yes.
Mr. McGee.
Yes.
Ms. Zirinsky.
Yes.
And Mr. Dees.
Yes.
Adopted by a vote of 6-0.
Thank you. CMR Construction, now therefore be it resolved that the Northampton County Council does hereby concur with the recommendation of the county executive as set forth in the attached documentation to approve a contract with CMR Construction. Discussion? Call for the vote.
Margot Hefner.
Yes.
Mr. Dees.
Yes.
Mrs. Ferraro.
Yes.
Mr. Lot.
Yes.
Mr. McGee.
Yes.
Ms. Zirinsky.
Yes.
Adopted by a vote of 6-0.
And the last one is Atlantic Culinary Environments. Now therefore be it resolved that the Northampton County Council does hereby concur with the recommendation of the county executive as set forth in the attached documentation to approve a contract with Atlantic Culinary Environments. Discussion? Call for the vote.
Margot Hefner.
Yes.
Mr. Lot.
Yes.
Mr. McGee.
Yes.
Ms. Zirinsky.
Yes.
Mr. Dees.
Yes.
Mrs. Ferraro.
Yes.
Adopted by a vote of 6-0.
Okay, is there any other new business to discuss? Okay, seeing none, any council committee reports? None?
What, so you just asked for a committee report?
Yes, ma'am.
We're just going too fast today.
Are there any
Yeah, I know, I got it.
council committee reports?
Well, we had the Energy, Environment, and Land Use Committee right before this. I think we passed 3 resolutions that came from that. We had a presentation from Penn State Ag, from Amy Hoffman on the 4-H Club, Allison Zapp from Buy Fresh, Buy Local on agritourism. We also had some concerns brought up by the Conservation District about their wanting another employee, the allocation of their fees, schedule fees, and an upcoming budget amendment that they will be presenting, as well as some concerns about the building. And the rest of it we already talked about.
Okay, thank you. Any council liaison reports? Mr. Dietz.
Yeah, so it's 911. I know that Peg actually has the 911 liaison, but I did have a meeting actually with some of the fire department and municipality from Bath with some concerns about the 911 center. So I guess that they had tried to call the 911 center and didn't get answers. They did get an email for them, and they're actually getting some responses back, but that was pretty recently. The three main concerns they had were the radios and not getting the call. So I guess with the switchover and the changeover, them and they believe there's several other municipalities in the county that are on old radios or new ones and are not getting all the call outs for some of the 911 calls. So obviously that's a concern. And then actually as of recently as last week, one of the fire departments, their company they work for, they actually had someone that went into cardiac arrest, and 911 was directing them the wrong way with the bridges out in Bath. So one question is, does the 911 center have the list of bridges that are out in the county as part of their mapping to go out there? So they may have it. It could be a mistake, or if not, which is something we should make sure that they do have updated in there. And then the other one was one of their concerns, and maybe something we could look at with the 911 center is, so when it gets a call out, some municipalities have agreement with neighboring municipalities on helping out, backing up calls. But some of them, you could have, just say, Penargil could have an agreement with Wind Gap, but the call could be on the west end of Penargil, right next to Plainfield, and it's not the closest station that's responding to a call. So if maybe when the 911 center gets a call, we can take local politics out of it or whatever you want to call it, and they could call the one or two local, the most closest stations, no matter where it's at, to get the response in there. So just a couple thoughts. I am going to, because it was short notice, so I didn't get a chance to. I will email the guys in the 911 center and that. But I just wanted to make those concerns to council.
Okay, thank you.
You're the airport liaison,
Go ahead.
but I went to the meeting, and
Wait, before,
Sorry.
what action do we need to take, or what follow-up do we need to take on
so
that?
I don't think anything at the moment. So like I said, I will send an email to Joe Weaver with the 911 center and even the administration just to outline the concerns, and then maybe they'll get some answers. And then I do suspect that they will be in front of us when we do the budget hearing in the next few weeks when they be up. So hopefully we'll have some answers then, and maybe we could bounce a couple of these things off of them, face to face. But I did want to advise the rest of the council. I am going to reach out to some of the other municipalities to see if they've had the same concerns. I would hate to think that each municipality may be having a concern and think it's just their local issue, and it could be a broad issue with the switchover that we're having. So,
Question
sure.
for Mr. Dietz. Now, did they reach out to our 911 center?
They did.
Didn't get any resolve?
I know that's-
Is that why they
They did not get resolved, and there was some issue of, and I please forgive me if I summarize some of this off, but they have attack line 1 and 2. When they sent the radios and got the new radios in, they removed 2 and said that they said the 911 center told them they would not be using TAC 2. Very shortly after, they got a call through TAC 2, and they didn't have it in their systems. They had removed from their radio bands. And then, so where they sit in the valley, they know that they're in somewhat of a hole, but some of the frequencies just don't get down in there. And so it's, with some of the switchover, it was basically followed the exact timing of when they did switch over. So any issues that could be coming with the software or whatever. They did offer one thing is that they're putting, I think Verizon's putting a tower, working with Bath to put a tower in there. There could be some feeders or boosters or whatever they're called in there as an option to put on. And Verizon doesn't charge a thing, of course, to have anything on the antennas. So it'd just be equipment costs. They didn't know what they were. We literally just discussed that yesterday. So they would look to see what that would be. But it could be a possible, aid in the situation.
Would you like to address this?
Yeah. With the transferring over of the radio consoles and such, we haven't. We are still operating on both of our consoles. We're actually operating on both the new one and the old one concurrently at this point. The new one has not had all the bugs knocked out of it yet, so we have not transferred over that yet. So we're still working off the old consoles. There are those elements that we're maintaining so that we don't run into these problems. In some of these occasions, some of these circumstances, it has something to do with their equipment as well. So these elements.
Well, so I will say it's their equipment that the county has programmed for them.
Yes, but it's not. We're still working on. They're still operating off our old consoles, so that's not something that we're seeing broadly, and not something that's been brought to our attention.
Okay, well, so I mean, I'll take the word that they reached out to someone, but saying it's not broad and someone dies in Bath because it's localized is not a good answer.
I would equally say that waiting until budget to bring these problems up or not bringing these problems up during the consolidation is probably much worse because.
So they have, by the way. So they've reached out. They didn't get an answer from the county or who they reached for I should say not the county, but in the 911 center until just a couple of days ago when they got an email. The support at nc911.org is the only email of various emails and phone contacts that they got a response from. So the next step was reaching out to their representative on county council, which was me, and bringing it forward. So no, they're not waiting. My point when waiting was that the 911 center would be able to answer broadly to the general public besides the email that I sent to them on these concerns. So they're not waiting, by the way.
So just a question, the chain of command is 911 center to you,
Yeah.
correct? So I assume that you'll follow up.
Well, I don't have very much to follow up on other than these comments, and these comments are not necessarily. If this could be forwarded to our office, we'll certainly take a look at it and see what the issues are.
Thank you.
Anyway, not that 911 isn't really important. Really important. Yeah, no one wants to die in Bath, right? Yeah.
No, or
Okay.
anywhere else for that matter.
Correct.
Exactly. Okay, so anyway, Airport Board Committee meetings met today, and I just wanted to report a couple things that are going on at the airport. They're doing some upgrades to make the airport a little bit, have a couple more amenities. Obviously, they've fixed many of the escalators, and they're still working through that. They put in a smart market right after the checkpoint, and they're thinking about putting one in Hangar 7 so that there's some additional things to eat besides that little snack stand that they have there. And in October, Dunkin' Donuts is opening a kiosk in there as well. So they're trying to make the airport a little bit better for travelers. At Braden, I think it's interesting. They are very proud that they have signage there now. They brought in a flight school. They brought in maintenance, building more hangars, and they've also made connections with Northampton Community College to potentially have classes there for flying schools. So there's a lot going on at the airport, and it's a really exciting time. We've been in the black now for many, many months, and it's exciting to see that we're at a profit instead of the deficit that the airport had been in a couple years ago. So we're really on good footing. So I think it was anyway, I'm going to leave it at that. So thank you.
Thank you. Any other liaison reports?
Lehigh Valley Economic Development had a meeting this week. They discussed their marketing plan, which I think they're putting a lot of resources into, and they did report on some of their results. They have a meeting coming up. It's the Meet the Buyers Expo, Wednesday, October 23rd at from 8:30 to noon at the Arts Quest Steel Stacks. That's all.
Okay. Anybody else? I have one from the GPA. GPA met this Tuesday. There was a motion passed to pay the main milestone. I don't know if you remember, we didn't pay the full milestone. So a motion was passed to pay the rest of the main milestone upon agreement of the completion of bridges 63 and 143 by the end of 2019. So if they agree to do that, we'll release the payment to them. Second, we have a special counsel that was hired, Watt Teeter, who is working to negotiate with Krieger on restructuring the contract for completion on behalf of the GPA. They want it to more accurately reflect the work that was done, redirection of the work, and they want to discuss the reduction of the removed bridges and the timelines for completion. So that's moving forward.
Can I ask real quick, have they seemed receptive at least to renegotiating or no? Or looking at it?
I have to ask the person who was in the room when it happened.
They recognize that this does need to be done. The two sides have been working diligently to find some common ground, and I think everyone recognizes that we need to get these done, that we need to get moving on this project again. A lot of what we've been discussing has been to be a reset, pushing this year behind us and working forward to get these bridges back on track and back moving. We'll see how everything shakes out, but it really has been a...
Well, I mean, I guess, so at least they're willing to come to the table to at least talk about it.
The contract with the GPA sort of forces them to. So
Yeah.
it's helpful that the GPA took the serious and significant effort to hire Watt Teeter, a construction law firm out of D.C. that really has come to the table and made this whole process so much better. So I think with their help, this will be moving forward.
Yeah.
The GPA has not made the August milestone payment, nor was the invoice submitted, so that was agreed upon. And the big news is that we reviewed plans to demo and redevelop the Glendon Hotel. There's 3.A proposals, and the motion was made to approach the borough for further information and zoning approval, any questions they may have, and buy-in. So there's plans to, there's an additional parcel of land adjacent to the Glendon Hotel, so that's possible for sale, for not. And then, it's Plan A, build so many, Plan B, build so many, Plan C, build so many, or complete demolish.
It's supposed to be for attainable housing, right?
Yes.
And did they resolve the issue where it's the setbacks from the road?
That needs to be questioned with the zoning. That's why it's being sent back to Glendon. Because that, number one is...
it's either 20 or 50 feet.
Right. And that's Plan A and Plan B. But there's Plan A and 1A. It's like either 5 or
tiered,
7 or 4. So it depends on what the zoning board agrees to.
Right, because the article that I read indicated that if it was 50-foot setback, that they wouldn't be able to build on the slope because it wasn't right. And I thought, is that a problem with the variance? Because the variance is, can't be that difficult to get, right?
It depends on their willingness to do it.
It has to go back to the borough to make the recommendation.
Got it.
But it's forward
exciting.
motion, and it's not just,
What was that guy's name that came in?
I don't know, but he should be happy.
He should be happy.
And that's all. GPA's been busy. All right, so if there's no more liaison reports, council clerk.
Nothing.
Council solicitor.
Nothing.
Motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion.
I saw Matt's hand first.
I'll
So Mr.
second it.
Dietz, Tara's my second. All in favor? Aye. Okay, thank you. There you go. That's not the word. County council.
You know what?